They say my generation full of dope. We tell them thanks, this is our year. But on the real they saying slow your roll. As if we don't, we gonna die, but we like it. They don't know what life is. My homie, if he heading to the party, we like it. And that poison be pricey, and they gon' get you hyphy. But if you ain't throwing down, then stay at home with your wife. And straight out the bottle.
We're in the District Detroit, where today we talk to Billy Deck. He's the founder and CEO of Sunda New Asian. He tells us about his Filipino roots and how he shares that in the menu here at Sunda. Let's get into it. All right, Off the Block presents Sunda New Asian Detroit, and we're here with Billy Deck. So appreciate you having us.
Thank you.
First thing I want to get, so we're kind of a casual show. I'm not a professional journalist. So
I appreciate you being here.
Okay, well, I'm happy to be here.
And I appreciate that you are professional, first of all.
Thanks, we try.
But I'm quite often unprofessional, so this is great.
Yeah, that's a perfect setup.
Okay, good.
Usually, and my co-host, this is my first show without my co-host, and he's a great person to shoot the shit with. So
nice.
Wish he was here, but he's not. Shane, miss you this episode. So my first question I had to ask, you're everywhere. So what motivates you to keep going? You run at like a high motor.
Oh, man.
So like what keeps you going to keep growing yourself, growing your business?
Well, I have made a lot of mistakes. And I've hit a lot of obstacles and roadblocks. It takes a lot of trial and error. And I think now I'm lucky enough to have learned that I found what makes me just inspired and passionate. It doesn't feel like work, and it's Sunda. I have, owned and operated other restaurants, nightclubs, and bars through Chicago, and now we're in Tampa, Nashville, and here in Detroit now. We own a marketing agency called Coact and an HR agency called HR Pro. But something about Sunda is just, my family, heritage, lineage. I've been back and forth to the islands of the Philippines where my mom's from since I was a kid, and it's magic to me. And so when I start seeing new people working on our teams in new cities and new guests just lighting up, not trying to process the flavors, the decor, the kindness of our staff, the hospitality and humility of all that, the talent that works here. It's really cool. I mean, similar to the way in which your guy here got excited about the bathroom scent.
Yeah, just motivated by a small thing.
That's from a flower from the islands of the Philippines, the sampaguita, which is the national flower of the Philippines. And it's a very unique scent. And so it's kind of cool when you grow up in a culture that not a lot of people know about. And then all of a sudden you grow up and people are like, wow, what is that?
Yeah. So that's awesome. And I actually just watched the documentary yesterday, Food Roots.
Oh man.
It was awesome.
I feel very exposed.
The thing is, I love Chef's Table, and it's got a Chef's Table vibe, but like on steroids. Like I felt like you're telling way more personal stories than you're going to see on Chef's Table. So I really enjoyed it personally.
Yeah.
So I guess tell me how that came about. Like, was that something you thought like, let's get it going? Did that come to you with the opportunity? How did that shake out?
So first of all, that's a super compliment. I love Chef's Table. So,
it's like I nerd out on that.
And that really dials into sort of the chef psyche and why and background and process. And there's a lot of that, but not being a chef, I really was just sort of a random human on a journey. And I think that's why people relate to it so much now, because it's not just about Filipino food. It's not just about cooking. It's not just about hospitality industry. It's more of a human story. But, I was raised in a Filipino-American household with Filipino food cooked 24/7. Tagalog was spoken. My Lola, my grandma, raised us from the islands of the Philippines, and we'd go back and forth to the Philippines quite often, still do, and visit family, my mom's side of the family. And we used to get quite bullied in middle school and high school about the food that we grew up loving, the culture we grew up loving. And I sort of pushed away with it to listen to whatever the US or Americans would say is successful. So, which I think is all awesome and important too. So it's like, what schools can you go to? And, go to law school and go to business school and go to, be on TV and work for the White House and all these things. I did, thinking that was going to give me this wholeness or happiness, and something was still missing. And one day my Lola died, and we realized that the recipes weren't written down.
Yeah.
These family recipes that she was the best ever at. She was the best cook ever. And I just felt guilty that I'd pushed away for so long. And, I always thought, I'll just get around to it. She has so many sisters and there are other elders in the Philippines, and they just sort of dwindled away. And one day, 2 of the last 3 elders died on the same day. And I was like, what am I doing? I just dropped everything and just went to the other side of the world and went to the 7,641 islands of the Philippines to learn, find family and elders and learn the recipes of my ancestors.
So for people who haven't been to the Philippines, where would you recommend to go? Like,
man.
I don't know anything about it. So like, where would you say, hey, Kyle, go here if you're gonna make a trip out there?
First of all, I would say growing up in Detroit and me growing up in Chicago as two folks in sort of cold cities, we've got to go to the white sand beaches, and the blue waters. And there's, again, 7,641 islands. So it's the most beautiful place on earth. And there are just so many places to go. I couldn't even give you one. I mean, the one that was in the movie, in the film, was great, which is Boracay. That's been named one of the top 10 in the world many times over. But there are other ones like Palawan and Cebu, and there's so many, and there's certain ones that are undiscovered. And when you get there, you can pop around and just live off the grid and, eat fresh everything.
Looks sick. You did a pretty good job in the documentary, kind of at the beginning describing the distinctions of Filipino food.
Yeah.
Maybe for the audience, what are those specific distinctions of Filipino food that maybe differentiate themselves from a Chinese food, a Japanese food, anything that's Asian influence? And again, Sunda is Asian influence. Yeah. So what are maybe ingredients or specific foods that you think, say, this is what makes it Filipino?
So the interesting thing about Filipino food is that it's always evolving, and it's always improving and changing and welcoming other cultures in. So whereas you go to other countries, there are certain elements that are finite, constant, traditionally they're always, and Filipino food for us was always something that was, constantly changing. So I like to describe it as starting with, sort of a quintessential Asian food mix of, quite a bit of Chinese and some other elements, but then you're mixing in things from Spain and Africa and India and Malaysia and Mexico and the US and all of these different cultures that begin to create, some familiarities, but a lot of nuance. And you're like, what is that? Yeah. Why is it like that? You compound that exponentially when you have not only all the inhabitants, the occupiers, the colonists, the colonizers, I should say, and all of the influences that were there over the course of hundreds and hundreds of years, and then 7,641 islands where people have different access to different water, different trade patterns, different, it's just so diverse.
Yeah.
So it's very hard to say. I will say that they love, obviously, seafood because they're surrounded by so much, and pork is quite popular.
That stuffed pig. Dude.
We do.
How often are you doing that personally? Like, is that like a family thing that you do on like occasions? Well, how often are you making it?
We do an adobo braised pork belly all the time.
Here, at Sunda.
At Sunda, awesome. At home, it's quite popular. We also do it with chicken. You can do it with vegetables, but the whole adobo braised process is quite Filipino. And then you can also roast a whole pig, which we've done before.
Yeah,
quite often.
Amazing.
That's always fun. And the stuffed pig that you're referring to is really interesting. And in different islands, they have different specialties with what they stuff in it. I actually do the Today Show every once in a while. And one of the things I did on the Today Show was I took the insides of what we sometimes stuff a pig with, and we did it with a turkey on Thanksgiving Day. So we did this sort of Southeast Asian turkey, and we stuffed it with like Hawaiian bread and papaya and, longanisa, which is like a Filipino sausage, and all these sorts of ingredients and herbs and spices. And those things stuffing a pig, or in this case, a turkey on national television was pretty fun and delicious.
So I was thinking to myself, I'm like, man, I'm going to ask so many questions about this documentary because I loved it. I was like, we're probably not even going to get to the restaurant.
No,
but
that's so important.
anyways, one of the things that stuck out to me, the tattoo.
Yeah.
Okay. So did you know how detailed this tattoo was going to be beforehand? Did you know what it was going to look like? Because I mean, from the looks of it, I'm thinking he's going to tap out after a couple knocks on the chest. You're bleeding from the chest.
Yeah, I'm bleeding out on TV. You know, I actually didn't know I was getting a tattoo because you actually don't know if she would do it for you.
Right.
There's been stories and folklore that sometimes she reads your spirit and your soul and your lineage, and you could get turned away. Or, you know, there's a lot of meaning and background.
Yeah. Which the documentary does a beautiful job of telling that story.
Right.
So watch it.
Having discovered and journeyed through so much to learn about my past, my lineage, my ancestors, the recipes, and all the stories that went with it, I think we were comfortable enough to go to the mountains. And we literally had to go off the grid, no internet or cell reception, which people hear and they're like, oh, I could do that. But if you do that for 2 days, you realize like, wow, we are so dependent on our stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
And, you know, because there's no like Google Maps. I mean, we were like, that's the mountain, and there's 2 more mountains ahead of us. We had to go up mountains to go down them, to go up, carrying, you know, stuff and gear. And it was crazy. So I didn't know. And then I didn't cry.
No, that's what I was going to say. I'm pretty sure you edited that out. And I was like, he 100% tapped out because it's like, there's the line, the couple dots. And I'm like, he's had to tap out. This must have been an intricate.
Well,
eagle.
A couple things. One, I've heard
you.
stories where people have actually soiled themselves and would sob, and things that I just would refuse to do. But I was also in a trance. Like, you know, this is a woman that's 107 now, I think, or 108, Apo Wangad. And she, you know, just sort of represents how folks ran into the hills to protect their families and protect their art and culture when different colonizers and occupiers would, you know, sort of brutally come in and take over certain parts of the country. And, you know, they used to have to defend themselves up in these mountains above the clouds. And similar to other cultures and historical references, you know, when people came to threaten them, they would attack them, and they would, you know, sometimes cut their heads off, and they were called headhunters. And that has happened throughout history in a lot of different places around the world when it came to protecting yourself. So she was tattooing warriors, like when she was younger, and she had a certain hit that warriors can take.
Dude, so you can see it on the film. Like, she's going in. Like, this is no joke.
And you can feel your chest bones vibrating, and
I would have cried.
You feel the warm liquid dripping down your chest and your blood. And
my whole thought was this: after it was done, and you're sitting there, I'm like, oh, he 100% cried. They edited that out for sure. That is painful.
I was in a zone, man. I was so like spiritually blessed and grateful to be there. And it was so, I was looking out over her shoulder, and I noticed that the clouds were below us.
Yeah,
like,
that's how high up we were. Yeah.
The clouds were below us. And then, you know, it was just a really great experience. I mean, we had captured everything we needed to capture, and that part just kind of happened. Magically, which I think really tied spiritually a lot of things together in that movie.
Yeah, again, I loved it. People must watch it, especially, again, if you do love Chef's Table. It has the beautiful, the storytelling of food and the showing the beauty of the food itself too, and the stories and your personal stories that really connect.
And it's really cool that it's on PBS. I grew up watching PBS.
Okay,
and,
see, I watched it on YouTube. I didn't even, I didn't know it was on PBS. I think I saw in the underlying
it's on
too.
PBS TV nationwide, which is awesome. But they allowed me to put it on my personal YouTube, which is just at Billy Deck Life.
Cool.
If you want to check it out.
So, I mean, so let's go start talking about the restaurant specifically, and maybe a little bit. We're a Detroit-centric podcast. Yeah. When did Detroit start hitting your radar for a place to set up shop?
Super interesting because, you know, as a Chicagoan in the hospitality industry, I constantly was fortunate enough to run into Michigan folks all the time. Yeah. Like, it was something that I never knew as a kid. And then all of a sudden, I was a 19-year-old doorman at a nightclub, and I thought they were fake IDs because I was like, why is like every third ID a Michigan ID? You know what I mean? Like, it just didn't, just didn't grow up that way. Chicago is all you know. You only know your little bubble when you're a kid. And throughout the journey of, the decades that followed in the restaurant industry and building nightclubs, restaurants, bars, we took care of a lot of people from the Detroit area and the Detroit suburbs. And a lot of them were DMing me like crazy when they were going back to their roots in the suburbs of Detroit, mostly after COVID. And so right after COVID, people were like, can you bring it out to Detroit? It's really blowing up. They're really teaching me quite a bit. I also had a really great classmate, went to Harvard Business School with a guy named Sailor Fraze. That's a local Detroit guy. And since the day I met him, it's like every other person from Detroit. So hardcore Detroit first, us first,
can be
everybody.
Obnoxious sometimes.
I love it, man.
I know.
It is so great. And those two components created interest and intrigue. But then when the developers started coming out, like Bedrock and Illich and some other folks, they were taking me on walking tours. And I was like, I didn't know you can do summer sunny walking tours around Detroit. And, because similar to Chicago, when you're traveling around the world, people are like, oh, you're in Chicago, Al Capone, or, are you in a gang? Like, what? It's like a beautiful world-class city. And similarly, you get that from like a Pittsburgh or like a Detroit. Like, should I wear, am I going to get...
Am I going to be safe?
Yeah, am I going to be safe? Is it going to be smoky? Is it going to be chocolate? Like, so I cut to me like eating a chocolate chip cookie and a nice coffee, walking around like super beautiful stores and having things with artisans and chefs. And I fell in love with the city. I also have been living in Nashville for the last 7 years since we opened Sunda Nashville. It was our second Nashville, so I really wanted to make sure it was a success. And I've left the city that I grew up in, Chicago, downtown, gritty, architecture, sports, food, music, all these things that I always boasted about as part of my DNA and the DNA of the city. Yeah. And then I get to Detroit, which I missed for so long being in Nashville, which is great, but I live in like a, sort of a naturey kind of, getaway scene. But I get to Detroit, I'm like, oh my God, everything that I ever bragged about and love, Detroit arguably have had more of first, the most, you know what I mean? So it's like, exactly I'm that creepy lost looking dude staring at buildings and the architecture because I love it. Yeah. And I just love the fact that the music history, the sports love,
You sports guy or no?
I have been in and out. I grew up in martial arts.
You like the social scene?
Tennis. So I didn't really, but I also grew up next to Wrigley
Field. You say tennis?
Field. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. But I grew up in Lincoln Park and walking distance from Wrigley Field. So, Chicago fan for life for, just all I know is Chicago. But it's really cool. Detroit people have been so kind. I actually sat right where you are, and Chris Illich sat right here.
I heard was this last night?
Yeah. And then
what game were they have a home game, the Tigers?
Yeah. And then we sat, I'll show you the pictures. I'll send you the video. We sat in the dugout, like I'm Chris Illich is here and here's the dugout. And I'm like, first of all, I think it's really funny because I'm imagining that like the players are watching that like the owner of the team is there and one of the owners, and I thought it was so funny. Yeah. But it took me all over and tour. Awesome. So it was cool.
You love Sunda? Did you have a good time here?
Man, he's just freaking out.
Roll out the red carpet for him?
We roll out the red carpet for everyone. So it was really easy. I love geeking out about all the decor, all of the, cultural and traditional elements that complement the environment, the experience, and the food. He's a vegetarian. So we went off on the vegetarian offerings because unlike most restaurants who have to create a vegetarian menu, we have the benefit of inherently and organically, authentically having so much vegetarian food throughout Southeast Asia with really robust flavors and textures and processes. And, it's just ingredients that he was like, wow. Yeah. It freaked him out. It was awesome.
That's awesome. How involved are you in all these like detail? Because the every detail in here is really thoughtful and well crafted here. And you can see it right when you walk in. How involved are you in those decisions? I'm pretty hands-on.
I'm super involved.
Very hands-on.
I'm super involved, collaborative on all the pieces,
awesome.
Especially those that we grew up with, So every element has meaning in the venue. The menu I'm super involved with too. I'm either bringing ideas back from Southeast Asia trips, whether I'm going through Thailand, Vietnam, Singapore, all through China, Japan. And then my chef partner, Mike Morales, Chef Mike, is like, we've been together since we started at Sunda 18 years ago. So we have a shorthand, and he can finish my sentences and knows,
That's awesome.
you know, and he's super talented. He grew up in the Philippines, in the culinary capital of the Philippines, some say Southeast Asia, which is called Pampanga. And then went on to go to, you know, amazing chef school and different restaurants. And so he's got this really wide range, diversified background. That's awesome.
That is awesome, man. What's your go-to recommendation on the menu? Like, you got to try this one, or maybe a couple of them. It doesn't have to be one thing. Like, hey, you're going to come in, let's get this. You started with this. What
It's
do you
funny.
think?
My first, because Southeast Asia is so diverse, and I really don't have favorites. Like, I just love all the pieces. I mean, it's a rigorous process to stay on that menu, because we do tastings twice a year, where we invite all the chefs to bring out new dishes. And they really have to have a perfect score kind of over and over again to bump something off the menu.
Sure.
So I love all the offerings. The one suggestion I always say is make sure or the guidance I'll even give servers is try to make sure the table has dishes where you're using different things. Like, you're using your hands for some things, you're using utensils for some things,
Gotcha.
you're using chopsticks for some things. It really like kind of forces you to try different things and use your hands and eyes, and the flavor profiles are much more diverse and robust. I will say that there's this Kamayan dish, which you saw in the documentary, that's usually a 40-foot table. We do that ever so often. Banana leaf lined, all of these things from the islands of the Philippines come paraded out by the chefs, and they create this incredible island feast with all these colors and textures and ingredients, and it's so beautiful and impactful. But we make an actual chef's board customized for people's tables.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good way to sort of travel around the Philippines, which is now a new genre that everyone's trying to experiment with and discover, which is really exciting for us. So that would be one way to do that. But the sushi bar has so many incredible like New Asian creations where we're elevating the level of ingredients, cooking processes, presentation.
Yeah.
And then the bar. I mean, the bar is spectacular because a lot of these ingredients that we grew up in the Philippines, like a calamansi, which is like this little fruit that's kind of a mix between an orange, lemon, and lime, all in one little ball. And that, you know, with a little ginger and some other things, like, you know, we're working with yuzu and papaya and pineapple, and they're just so naturally normal when you're in Southeast Asia because you're just getting the juices.
I was going to ask you, what's the go-to Asian compliment to some Asian food and Asian dish or whatever? You know, like you think of Mexican food, you think of tequila, you think of like a Modelo.
Well, I think with your obviously sushi in the sushi bar area, the sake is really great. It's also great with some of the fish dishes, but and we have a robust like list that you can explore. But I think everything goes. I mean, you have really great, you know, people are used to, let's say, ordering their old fashioned and the Sunda old fashioned, but they just go great. Like this gigantic short rib that I just cooked on a TV show out here half hour ago. You know, that with like an old fashioned, a Sunda old fashioned is really great. I will say we have some great mezcal cocktails. You want to hear a good mezcal story?
Yes.
Okay. This blows my mind, and I love telling people this from Mexico or that love tequila and mezcal. So historically, back in the day, the Spaniards occupied Philippines for more than 400 years. They, during sort of the galleon trade moments, they brought Filipinos on these boats to Mexico to be laborers and other such things. And they had a still that they would create this coconut spirit called lambanog with. And it was a portable still. And they actually brought some of them on the boat. And when the Filipinos on the boat with the Spaniards got to meet the Mexicans in Mexico, they began to share their invention, the still and the lambanog, the coconut wine, and the coconut like liqueur. And they showed the local Mexican people how to do that with their agave. And they invented mezcal. So, but for Filipinos, there'd never be mezcal or tequila.
Okay. There you go. We just learned something new.
Mic drop.
Education right there. Well, let's see, we always learn something new. Usually it's not that high level of education, but that's pretty nice. So let me see. Let me take a look at my notes here. Off that. Oh no, one thing, again, I could ask you like a zillion questions about the documentary. There's a lot of flashbacks. Did you used to travel with like a camera, like a big old camera? Or was this not? Oh, was this an old school phone? Would you have?
No. Back in the day. So
these are my kind of high level questions I have on this show about shooting the shit.
Well, when I shot, I just called some shooters and editors that I knew because I'd filmed in the Philippines before, and they followed me around for all those pieces. Yeah. But I think what you're referring to is the executive producer is like this Oscar-winning, guy, Doug Blush is his name. And the reason you should know that is he's a native Detroit guy. Okay. And he Doug totally Shout out Doug. Also sold me on Detroit. And the Filipina director, Michelle Houseway, Emmy winner, she had a bunch of stuff. And then, by the way, Apple Diap from Black Eyed Peas did some music.
Who from who?
Apple Diap, who founded Black Eyed Peas with will.i.am. So we've got some Black Eyed Peas songs in there, which is really cool. They were like, really expanding the storyline, sending cameras out to talk to my family and myself. Yeah. And they talked to my sister, and my sister found old footage. And yes, back in the day.
What was that on?
The old footage was, I remember getting a camera. It was like one of those like little video cameras, but they were like this. Yeah. And I actually brought it with me, which was crazy because I lived in the Philippines and Thailand for 6 months out of college. And I had this little, well, not little, but it was a big camera by today. But then it was like the super new, little camera.
Sleek.
But I used probably like a third of my backpack for just that camera.
Okay, that's what I was curious. You get those, and I always think people should document what they're doing. You realize when you look back how special those moments are. And it was cool to have that little touch in there. So I really liked
that was lost footage as far as I was concerned. I don't even know where it came. They showed me the movie when it was done because they really took. They know how to storytell better than anyone, and they did a great job. The magic, and they showed it to me, and I was like, "Where did you get this stuff?" Yeah, it was crazy. Yeah. So
wizardry, witchcraft. That's how they found it. So I have a question also about specifically this location compared to the other ones. Is everything the same when you go there in terms of the menu? Are you going to find it? Oh man, I had a great thing in Detroit. I'm going to find that in Nashville. I'm going to find it in Chicago or Tampa.
So a lot of the food items are the same because it's such a vigorous process to figure out what actually makes on the menu. Mm-hmm. And because we're able to open, at one point we opened 3 restaurants in 11 months in 3 different cities. And it's very hard to, do all of that consistently without some consistency across the board. But I think what's really awesome is that each venue is a little different. Okay, meaning they're all family, but like kids, you could tell they're family, but they are different. Siblings are, different personalities, different looks. Yep. The one in the Meatpacking District of Chicago, Fulton Market, is much more from the Philippines, where my family's from. The one in Tampa is this really cool, funky, vintage Polynesian. And this one has a mix of different sorts of Asian things, like this beautiful overhang installation with 70,000 capiche shells from the islands of the Philippines. Beautiful.
We got a great wide shot right here on our big one.
Oh,
everyone's
did you?
Be able to see it. So that's why we were told, hey, go film by the sushi bar.
Well, it's my favorite thing. I mean, it's a bivalve marine mollusk, sometimes called the window pane oyster, that they, harvest this glass-like shell. And it was always in like furniture and things like that growing up. And so to do this was super special. But the interesting thing about Detroit is we took a little best of everything. So that's the bar from Tampa with the whole front disappears. Yeah. It's a nano wall. So it's indoor-outdoor, kind of an indoor-outdoor bar. Yeah. This is from like Fulton Market. The Meatpacking District has a really big installation of the bar. And then the other thing that's cool about Detroit is best friend for, multiple decades, actor on Friends, David Schwimmer. He's part of the team. He was traveled.
Was he here on the open? I saw your picture. Yeah. He was here.
Yeah. Okay. He's obviously part of the Sunda family forever, and was with me traveling through Japan. And so we were going through Tokyo and Kyoto and all these small towns. And so there's a lot of elements, like you see the Kokeshi dolls around. There's the sake room back there. Yeah. We literally were running through the subway system looking for this sake master to teach us all about whatever. And we finally find this place, and there's this that literal sake wall that I was inspired to recreate with the table right in front where we sat and learned all about sake. Even the sound clouds above us are, the dimensions of the tatami mats that we slept on. And there's just Japanese art and elements. So this one is, Detroit has a lot more Japanese in it, which is interesting. Which, by the way, I thought was interesting because when I was going through the airport, it's in Japanese too.
Okay,
like
you want to know why? It's automotive. There's a lot of that automotive business. So like when you're traveling, it's like there's so much automotive business going back and forth. Yeah.
Of the dozens
and
of
it's
Southeast
funny of
Asian
the one
cultures,
things,
the one thing that we pick for Detroit.
Literally 99% of the people here, more than that, 99.9% of the people here are like, what the hell is that?
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, pretty cool.
So that the sibling characteristic standout for Detroit is a touch more Japanese.
Yeah. It's beautiful. So if you come down to Detroit, this is definitely a place to come. I was gonna wear a friend's t-shirt. Like I saw that you were friends, and my wife goes, don't put on a friend's t-shirt with them. I go, oh, come on, I love it. Don't do that.
Yeah.
So I threw on Michael Bublé instead. No, but so what, and I don't know if you're open to talking this, we can always edit it out. What's the most revenue you guys have done in a year? And which location was it?
So
which like your best year?
Well,
best location?
that's kind of partially because our first one in Chicago is twice the size of any of our other Sundas. So
and how many does that fit?
One. That one could do, I don't know, sometimes we're doing 600, 700, 800 a night.
Oh shit.
For 18 years. Like it's a beast.
Yeah.
And we even opened up another one in Fulton Market because they're quite different and similar to you too. It's probably different than, you could have one here and maybe one in Birmingham or one here and whatever. But that one would probably be the rest. But I got to tell you, pound for pound, foot for foot, square foot by square foot, Detroit is like right up there because Chris Illich was asking me this. He's like, tell me what's different about Detroit. Like, what is it compared to your other Chicago locations, Tampa, Nashville? I was like, Detroit, first of all, is super excited and kind when they come in. They're so appreciative. They actually are looking at the little details. Yeah. And when they look at the menu, I don't know if this is just, I don't know. I feel like there's a love to support, not because they love the space. Yes, they love this place, but they also love Detroit. They're like, we're gonna make sure
we want nice things here. We want nice things.
Yeah, we know that other restaurateurs are looking over the fence and wondering how we're gonna do.
Yeah,
and they say it. They're like, let us know. Like, was it hard? Is it easy? Yeah. Are you gonna fail? Are you gonna succeed? Are you gonna thrive? And I think Detroit knows that, so they want people that are coming here to invest to go scream to the world, which I'm doing right now, that it is an awesome market to be in.
Yes.
I also think they look at the menu and have no fear of prices. Like there's diversity on our menu because Southeast Asia, you can go to Japan, you can go to Hong Kong, you can get the highest, best world-class items for whatever the cost is, or you can get really accessible dishes from like Vietnam and Thailand and the Philippines. So there's a lot of diversity, not just in flavors, but also in accessibility and cost. But man, I feel like the Detroit folks are here to go completely all in.
Yeah.
Like it's an all in.
We love nice nights out, man.
Yeah.
I mean, who doesn't, but like we're down for that.
But I feel like there's times where we're like, yeah, we'll take the most expensive stuff. We're not saying it, but
I was talking to Logan. You guys are leaving tonight, right?
Yeah.
Like I was gonna say, you stay for tonight. Like the Pistons are playing. It's gonna go crazy. I was like, you should try to stay, man. I told him, I was like, you should try to play.
If this came out sooner, so people could hear me beg about needing front row seats.
Yes.
No, just kidding.
No, you definitely could.
Well, you guys are gonna go all the way, so I'm just gonna come back.
That is true.
You know what I mean? So
hey, if we're in the finals, NBA finals, you're coming back, huh?
Oh my God! By the way. I'm going to be, I should have worked.
Eastern Conference Finals?
I didn't really, things have been so crazy with the launch of the documentary that I've been doing press in all the different cities. And I got here and someone's like, I was like, why didn't you tell me that? I would have worked, I would have changed my schedule. But I'll come back because you guys are going to keep winning.
Yes.
I know it.
Let's go. And then, we're going to try to get this out in like a week and a half or two. So we'll try to get it out.
You'll catch the finals.
But then I'm coming back here because I haven't got to eat here yet. So apologies.
What? Yeah, you got to bring your co-host and we'll have dinner.
Yes, we'll do that. That sounds good. So
we should just set up the cameras again. With a packed dining room?
We can always do that too. Yeah, what'd you say?
Yeah, no, let's be fine.
So what are your I didn't get a number on the revenues, so I like how you skated over that. But
but I gave you a number of people, and
and people can make in their mind like, okay, if they're spending it. Would you have a budget?
Do you know, partially I get accused on my end internally of not being enough of a numbers focused person. I'm more on the creative, cultural,
you have that vibe,
passion side, and I literally, sounds horrible because I'm sure my director of operations is somewhere back there listening. But I was telling this to Chris Illich last night because he was like, I was like, how do you set up your day? And how do you, and he's meeting with like, business planners and CFOs and all these things. And I was like, man, I do it because I love it.
Yeah.
And I have people that are smarter,
I get that sense from you.
Way smarter people than me around that do all those things.
Nice.
So was that a better skate?
No, that's a good one. And I'm going to hit you with two more that you can try to skate around for. So
good.
What's your budget typically for opening a new place where you obviously got a budget for all this design work, all the actual materials and all the stuff that goes behind it? Do you have like a range budget
So I'll tell you what's interesting about the way in which we go about things is, first of all, a lot of people ask us to go to like New York, LA, Vegas, Miami, and I'm not really into that, partially because there's a lot of other folks doing really good work in those cities. So it's accessible. I like going to cities where perhaps it's not accessible at that level yet.
Yeah.
And so they're up and coming cities. So, obviously going to Nashville 10 years ago, people were like, why are you going to Tennessee? Going to Tampa 6 years ago, they're like, why are you going to, Florida? And Detroit. Now people are like, some people are like, well, it's about time. Yeah. And some people are like, why would you go to Detroit?
Yeah.
And part of that also has to do with the costs being more accessible.
Yeah.
And usually the developers are more inclined to invest with you to help lower the costs. So our costs are high in a sense that the materials are world-class and beautiful and they're all the best of the best working on it. But it's misleading because our costs are also offset by the timing and the partners and developers who are also making it easier for us to be here.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. And then we're on the District Detroit, right on the main promenade here. Yeah. What's the square footage for rent on a premium spot in Detroit?
I thought you were going to ask what the square footage. That I know, 6,000 square feet.
Okay, now people can do the math.
Because that's
if they
our
want.
model. That's our model sort of going forward.
Size.
It's like the perfect
size.
And we've taken that down from 16,000 square feet, which is our first venue.
The Chicago
That's
one.
how big it is. Yeah, that's what I was mentioning.
That is massive.
So, and I don't actually even know what the rent is. That's terrible.
You're like, but I know we're doing so well. We got it covered. Don't worry, Chris. I got you covered. Here's an advance.
But I know that, we also, I think the developers here have a vision of really helping to invest and bring, world-class operators in. And so whatever the rent is may not be reflective of what like the norm is.
Yeah.
But isn't that weird? I don't know.
I mean, you're doing great figure skating.
Either your viewers are going to think I am the most savvy wordsmith skate around the answer.
Or they're going to be like, he doesn't know shit.
Or he's super stupid.
No,
he's super.
No, we ask these questions all the time, and generally people are like, it's pretty much the same answer. We get the same response, but we still ask it just to ask it. Some people would be like, no, exactly. But more often than not, this is the answer we get. But let's get off that. And you kind of touched on it a little bit where you have interest. Do you have interest in future locations in your mind? You mentioned a few different cities.
Well, first of all, it's really interesting to be here and have folks start asking us to go to other cities.
Because you just opened 2 months ago, so know what's next.
Oh my God, it's the number one question. The number one question when you literally have a baby and it's opening night of a restaurant, they're like, when's the next one?
Exactly.
And you're just like, wait, you haven't even tried the food. Like I just got here. I'm like, the paint's still wet. But we are definitely looking at up and coming cities. You know what I mean? Like cities that I believe are popping or are going to pop, which, that's what I believe about Detroit. I think it's already happening. I think internally everyone knows it and feels it. But on the outside world, similar to the way in which people ask me stupid questions about Chicago, because they just are regurgitating overused stereotypes and inaccurate information. They don't know where Detroit's at yet.
Yeah.
But they
Until
will.
you get here, and then you realize like
Yeah.
that was awesome.
Right.
Like you're coming back for the finals. It's just a place you're going to come all the time now and have a
love
great
it.
time. Detroit, baby. One off the cuff question. You've done a lot of stuff. If you go on Billy's page, you'll see how many different things you're involved in, whether it's a cooking show, whether it's an event with the most famous people in the world.
Workaholic. Just a workaholic.
Yeah, you're just a
Just a
workaholic.
spastic workaholic.
I guess, what is some of the favorite gigs you've done and people you've met? Maybe is there a favorite acting gig you've done in your acting career?
Oh man, all my favorite things are the things that make no money, like the acting and podcasting and like things. So like people assume that it's always about business, so it's not. It's all about like what I'm passionate about.
Do you ever have a fun acting gig? This is just a great time.
Yeah, I have. I think the one that like was, it was awesome being on Friends a couple times as, whatever. But Criminal Minds was really cool.
Okay.
Having a bunch of scenes as a recurring guest, that was awesome. I just did a cool fight scene on Leverage, which was great to be, because the actor, Christian Kane, who's actually one of the investors here too, was like, I don't use a stunt double. I'm going to fight this out. And I was like, yeah, me neither. I do all my own stunts too, which, I grew up in martial arts and I was like, yeah, I got this. But like doing the take 50 times, I was like so dead afterwards.
It's a beat.
I enjoy, I've been doing the Today shows, I was a food contributor, I don't know, 12 years ago, I probably started, and I go sometimes once a year, once a quarter, once a month. Sometimes there was a time where I was going week to week. I'm back on the show next week.
Awesome.
So I love That's a Rush, being in New York and the 4-camera crazy live show with millions of people. A lot on the line.
Well, yeah, you're clearly very active. You got, like I said, you have a high motor, and it's for me being introduced to you and your world. It's been really awesome. So just I'm excited to come try this place. I'm excited to see what you got going next. So again, appreciate the time that you gave us today. It was really awesome.
Oh, thank you.
We can always do this again.
Thanks for watching the doc, by the way.
No, dude. I was going to stop in the middle of it, and because my wife likes this too, but I was like, I don't know what her plan is tomorrow, and I'm coming tomorrow. Like, I ripped right through it. It was beautiful.
And
touching
it's only
tribute to your
54
family.
minutes, so she can watch it.
Yeah. I'd watch it again.
Oh, cool.
But thanks again for your time. I think that's about it. You have, and is there anything you want to share with an audience that you think is important besides watch the doc?
I think that was a really good coverage of everything.
Yeah, let me see. Let me check my little notes list. One last thing, if there was anything that I.
Oh, I want to say one thing about this. Because I'm staring at it.
Okay.
The installation of the bar. If you want to shoot it later.
Oh yeah, we'll get some B-roll.
One of the cool things. One of the coolest things that we did was this installation of the bar where we handmade each of these flowers, and the white one is the sampaguita, which is the flower of the Philippines, the national flower of the Philippines, which is the scent that you smelled a little earlier from the candle. And then you have which represents like sort of purity and beauty and humbleness and hospitality, taking care of people, which reminds us of that. Then you have the cherry blossoms from Japan, which only bloom for a really relatively small amount of time during the year, which reminds everyone to really take in the moments that you're together, with each other, but also with our guests. Really savor those little moments, they mean everything.
Yeah.
And the thing we did here that we've never done before was we integrated one other thing inspired by the apple blossom, which is the state flower of Michigan. Mm-hmm. So we integrated the Michigan flower with these flowers from Japan and the Philippines to bring all the worlds together. There's a list of things that the apple blossom supposedly means, but I just thought like sort of this growth and renewal and all of those things, I thought was a really cool symbol. And it's the first time that we sort of let the culture play with the local community as well.
That's awesome.
So
beautiful. Well said. I like that. Well, that's a good way to wrap it up. I appreciate your time again, and we'll see everyone next time. And that's all. All right. Thanks,
thank
Billy.
you.
Bye.
They say my generation full of dough. We tell them thanks, this is our year. But on the real, they saying slow your roll. As if we don't, we gonna die, but we like it. They don't know what life is. My homie, if he heading to the party, we like it. And that poison be pricey, and they gon' get you hyphy. If you ain't throwing down, then stay at home with your wife. And straight out the bottle.